It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielsen, Matt Cassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a pre-free agency episode of Two Guys and a Goalie, brought to you by our great partners at CoolBet, where you can go bet on Jack Campbell becoming a member of the Edmonton Oilers right now. And the line has moved significantly since I first tweeted it out today, because it does seem likely that that is something that could be in the cards. If you've not yet signed up for an account at CoolBet, do it now. Just hop online and use the code 2Guys when you sign up so they know that we sent you. Boys, what's happening? Happy Monday. How are you guys?
Happy Monday. My older two kids are at grandma and grandpa camp this week, or cousin camp as they call it. So quiet household. I almost didn't know what to do with myself yesterday. Like, where it was just one kid. I was like, what do I even do with one kid? I don't even know. So a little bit quiet around the Cassian place, but
we are
doing good.
We're at my parents' place with my kids' cousins. My sister's here with her two kids. I don't even see my kids. Like, they're just playing with their cousins the whole time. It's bizarre. Like, they're still here, but they literally, not once today will they come and be like, Daddy, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? It's just like, I don't even exist anymore, which, to be honest with you, I'm okay with for 3 or 4 days while we're here. So that's good. Gage, what about you? Your kids don't like you anymore either, right?
No, my wife and daughter are in Orlando right now for a dance competition. Nice. And I'm home with my, as of today, 17-year-old son.
Oh, wow. Happy birthday to him.
Yeah. So, yeah, we yesterday was just a day of sitting on the couch watching movies. We watched some bad movies that I used to like The Crow, Sin City. We watched the first Kill Bill. Just full on guy moment with movies and just doing absolutely nothing. So it was different. It was definitely different. But it's his birthday today, so off to Japanese Village for dinner this evening.
Fancy birthday with the boys. That's nice.
Yeah,
that's good. I went and saw the new Thor movie on Saturday night.
How was it?
Well, did you guys like Ragnarok?
Yeah,
loved it.
It's good.
Yeah, I loved Ragnarok too. This one's like Ragnarok, but even a little bit wilder. So it's but it's good. And Christian Bale plays the God Butcher there. Gore. Yeah. He's awesome. Bale's always awesome. Like, he always kills it. He was really good. So it's definitely worth checking out for sure. All right, we've got lots to get into here today. A few storylines from around the league on free agency that we'll get to. We'll get to the Hawks completely dismantling their entire team. So we'll do that as well. But let's just start with the Edmonton Oilers, and let's start with basically, it's very much this Hyman feel now. Before free agency kicked in last year, it kind of just got to a point where everybody's like, oh, Zach Hyman's going to be an Edmonton Oiler. They've wanted him for a long time. And then when they signed him, nobody was surprised. I feel like it's starting to trend that way with Jack Campbell as well. Gager, if the Oilers are rolling into next season with Jack Campbell and Stuart Skinner, what are you thinking about their goaltending situation?
I like it. I like it a lot, Dusty. I think it's good. Jack Campbell's played well. He's in the games that I've watched, he's been a crucial part of the Leafs' victories in certain games. I've liked the way he's played in the playoffs, and I like the fact that he's a little bit more established than Stuart Skinner. But then you have Skinner wanting the little bit of a carrot there to be the man too, and moving forward. So a good goalie kind of battle there. I really want to see them give Skinner a chance here too. Obviously, he has to play well and deserve those starts. But I think it's a really good battle in net, and just a fresh start. I'm really happy about it. Tell you the truth, Dustin.
I have one little hesitation, but I'll get to it in a second. Cass, what about you, buddy? Where do you come out on Campbell as the possible number one man for the Oilers here?
Well, I'm not surprised at this point. It's not like there's a ton out there anymore from the goaltending. Yeah, so who else are you going to get? You have to get somebody. Seems to be that he's the obvious guy. Do I absolutely love it? Am I absolutely excited for it? No. But he's an NHL goaltender, and we've seen him play well at points during his NHL career, and you kind of have to go to him. Really, I think you just do. So let's give it a rip.
The only thing that and I mean, both of you guys make really good points. Gager, I thought you laid it out nicely. Cass, you make a good point that there aren't many other options here anyway, so you got to get one of them because you can't come up empty again. I'll be fascinated to see what the number is here. Like, do they commit 5 years to Jack Campbell, or do they do 3 years, maybe at a little bit of a higher number? The only thing that I kind of worry about is the Leafs. I mean, if they wanted to keep him around, I think they probably could have kept him around. But they're moving on from Jack Campbell and trying to get Matt Murray, which makes me go like, wait a second, what's wrong with Jack Campbell if the Leafs are trying to get Matt Murray instead? You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't add up to me. Something doesn't make sense. Mind you, the Leafs have made some moves that have been questionable that I haven't agreed with in the past either. So I don't know. His numbers have been pretty good. He's dealt with, obviously, a market before. I mean, I'll say it. I think some of our media can be a little bit different than any others in the country. But, Gager, any hesitation on that? Or maybe you even want to chime in on what the Leafs are doing. And it looks like Matt Murray, like pending a physical, essentially, there's a pretty good chance he becomes the next guy for the Leafs.
Yeah, I heard that, and I was like, that's crazy. Like, to me, Jack Campbell's, I know I feel better with him in net than Matt Murray. Watching Murray struggle in Ottawa, the guy, I mean, he hasn't had great seasons over the last few years, and man, I hate to say it, the guy looks malnourished. Like, and he just gets injured all the time. Like, I don't feel like he's durable enough to go through an 82 game schedule. It's absolutely ridiculous, and the price of him, unless Ottawa is keeping a ton of that money, that makes absolutely no sense to me. It's a no-brainer for me to I mean, this guy couldn't even play with the Ottawa Senators last year. So now you want him to be on a team that you're thinking you're in that window to win a Stanley Cup. And I know he's done it when he gets there, but the road to the playoffs for him, that's 90 miles of bad road.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see how this goaltending thing ends up sorting itself out. But the Edmonton Oilers look like it's going to be Jack Campbell for them, and I think a lot of people, for the most part, would be pretty happy with it. What do you hear? Oilers Analytics chiming in on the live stream saying Jack Campbell was top 10 twice in expected goals, expected GSA in the past 4 years. So, Cass, that's really good. That's really good.
That's really good. You know what?
I'm surprised anybody who's into analytics still listens to this podcast because of your attitude.
No, I don't. See, well, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I don't not like analytics. I think they're important.
You view them in a different way. Yeah.
I view them in a different way than a lot of people do. People that just want to build their team with analytics, I think that falls apart. There's too many variables, too many unknowns. Now, to look at Jack Campbell and to say, based on these metrics that we can see that it seems to be he was a top 10 performing goalie at times the last couple of years. I think you're able to look at it and say, is he a reliable, or can you expect him to be a solid NHL starter? And if the answer is yes, then that really helps. It helps you unpack it when you're watching the video, when you're going through and you see everything, using those analytics to say, okay, this is verifying what I'm seeing with my eyes. I'm not using it to predict the future, but I'm using it to help understand how a player played or what happened. I think that's important, and I think it's valuable. So I'm not totally against it. I mean, if his numbers are good, his fancy stats are good, it does speak positives about the player, and that's a good thing, especially since, as you said, there's not that many options for Edmonton, and looks like it could be just Jack Campbell.
They have certainly freed up some cap space over the last little while, with Smith expected to be on the LTIR, Duncan Keith retiring as well. They moved Zach Cassian. So Ken Holland has gotten himself some wiggle room from a cap perspective for sure, which kind of brings us back around to the Evander Kane conversation. There was a report today that his agent is opening things up to chat with other teams here as well, which I think could maybe signal the end here. I think it was Tim Peel, former official Tim Peel, who does some stuff somewhere now. He said that he heard the Oilers offered him 4 years at $4 million per. I know Tommy Gazzola on the Oil Stream, and when he was with us here on Two Guys, I believe the one time talked a little bit about how the Oilers really don't want to give Kane more than 3 years at all. And then you've got Saravalli at the draft saying Evander Kane's looking for a deal that'll bring in $40 to $50 million. So, Cass, when you hear everything here around Evander Kane, it's certainly looking like his time in Edmonton was short-lived, doesn't it?
Yep. Looks like you're not going to be able to afford him. It's not that surprising, really. I mean, we all kind of knew going into this that for him and for the Oilers, that was like a best case scenario, in that he has a really good season. He really helps you. He helps you make the playoffs, have a good playoff push, and then he moves on. I mean, it was a contract that he took here in Edmonton of mutual benefit, I think, for a short term, and that's what it ended up being. And Edmonton, you just can't afford to pay him that much. I don't see how you get there. It's too expensive. He did great things when he was here. I would fall into the camp of saying, okay, what happens if you give him a longer contract, which he's going to want? Is it going to be a fit for that many years? I don't know. And at what cost from a cap standpoint? It's not surprising to me. I think there's going to be some options out there. Yes, you're going to have to find someone, whether it be via free agency or via trade. Going to have to do something, but it's just too expensive. He's just too expensive. Now, is he everything they still need? Yep. But is he everything they still can afford? Nope.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was told a couple of days ago that they might still be poking around Josh Anderson a little bit. So maybe that's another plan if you want to bring in a guy with some size who might be able to give you 20 to 25 goals as well. Gager, that 4-year, $4 million speculation there by Peel might be accurate, because that's the type of deal that, you're not going 6 or 7 years. If he screws up again and you got to get out of it, it's not ideal, but it's also not going to absolutely kill you. So I could see with the Oilers not wanting to go much higher and much longer than what's already kind of out there.
No, like how much does he want?
Who else do you think of the league's going to be like, boom, 6 years, 42 mil? Like, I'd be shocked if that happened.
I don't like. I thought I saw something the other day. Is Oilers are in a good position to wait and see what happens, like on the market. Like, is anyone going to give him that much money? I don't know. Maybe I'm curious to see what happens if someone's just going to give him keys to the castle here. But then he like Cass said, the piece of the puzzle of him in the Oilers lineup, that's a massive piece. I mean, when you're putting a puzzle together, that's the first one you're kind of putting down, because he checks so many boxes. And I'm trying to look around the league of comparables to what he brings, and there's not a lot, man. There's not many guys that have his skill set and can do what he does. So I can see why he's asking for that much, but then it's just, it's too bad. The past history always comes up, and that length of time and that amount of money, it's never worked out in the past. So I don't know how you structure that contract. I've been seeing guys say, well, conduct unbecoming of the team, something put in there.
Yeah,
like
could you have
bonus.
That? Is that even possible, Gager? Do you know?
I don't know. I know it's in there.
Standard ones have them normal, like you normally have them, but I'm sure you like, would you want to look at something more strict?
Would he even go for something like that too?
Yeah.
Or, a bonus ridden contract too. Like, okay, if you want that, well, there's something
I don't know how much you can do that either. Like, it's a tough spot to be in. And you know what? Vander Kane's this is very interesting, because he's going to head out on the market. And if he truly is looking for like $7 or $8 million a year, I mean, people can look at it and go, he can go with, hey, look what I did in Edmonton. I was on pace for 45 goals and 80 points with the Edmonton Oilers. But the last 10 years in his career, he's hit 50 points once. So it's not like this guy's dropping 65 points wherever he goes. It's just not the case. So I'd be very interested to see what that market's like. I wonder if there's a circle back around here at some point and be like, okay, it was a good fit. See what I can settle for.
One of the most impressive things that he has going for him too, Dusty, is that wasn't like consistent first unit power play time either.
That's true too.
That's the real kick in the nuts for the Oilers, is he wasn't getting all the points on the power play. He was doing this 5-on-5 with so that's, I mean, again, that's just one of those massive boxes checked by Kane.
All right, so we'll continue to follow what's going on with Evander Kane. The other storyline we've been following in Edmonton for quite some time, is what exactly is going to happen with Jesse Puljujarvi. We heard the team is willing to move on from him. The player too would be okay with a fresh start as well. And now we heard, I think the max teams interested I saw with Saravalli dropped 7. I think he said 7 teams were interested, and some of them were coming out there. Rashad had tweeted at one point that some of the offers were pretty moderate at the time. And I think Dreger's recently said that the Oilers are disappointed in the offers and maybe lack of interest that they thought there might be in Jesse Puljujarvi. So, which means, there's interest, but they're not willing to give the Oilers what they want right now, which wouldn't surprise me. If I'm a team negotiating with the Oilers and I'm hearing everything I'm hearing, both, about the player and about the fact that, he's not fit with the team anymore, there's not a real reason to throw the Oilers a lifeline here, is there, Cass?
Nope.
Yeah.
Not at all. They know the player kind of wants out. He hasn't had a great time. They know Edmonton's looking to move on from him. They're going to start putting the boots to him a little bit on that. Like, why would you just give Edmonton everything they're asking for if you know a player?
There's zero reason to do that.
No,
zero reason.
None.
Right.
And it's not like Puljujarvi's a compelling enough player that you're going to move heaven and earth to get him.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, well, maybe he'll be a nice fit, maybe a little bit of a project, maybe a real good fit and has a lot of production. But is he going to change our roster? No. Do we need to
straight up
make ourselves worse?
Right
Yeah. Basically, this. Yeah, I won't get into some other trades for like in Panic Peter's day as GM, where I think it was the same situation. Like Taylor Hall was the same situation, whereas like you had a player that wasn't going to be here anymore, that everyone knew wasn't going to be a fit here anymore, and teams were just like, oh well, we're going to sit and we're going to wait. And we're going to see if they blink, and they blinked. So we'll see what happens with Ken Holland.
In general, there's value there on the player. Like you bring him in, he could play. He could get you 15 goals, 35 points, worst case scenario, and be responsible enough to not get your team in any trouble. Like those guys, Gager said it before. That's a relatively valuable player. Like
yeah. But what are you willing to give up for that? And guys, and maybe he gets traded. Maybe he does. Maybe there's a fit. But I don't see it happening. I think they're going to try to put the screws to him from a contract perspective on a short-term deal and try to get another year or two out of Jesse Puljujarvi.
The weird thing is if he goes to arbitration, he's probably statistically got a pretty decent case to get an okay number, I would think, for him. Much more than his qualifying offer that came in. Gager, what do you come out on what's going on with Puljujarvi right now? Man,
I don't get it. I thought there would be a little bit more interest with him. It's going to be tough. Like it's a situation where he leaves, but you need a serviceable player back. It's too big a hole to fill with a young guy, hoping that he can fill that void. I think. I'm curious to see what happens over the next few days. Obviously, something will, but it's just the return that I'm looking for mostly. Or, I don't know. It's puzzling for sure just to think that there was 7 teams and the Oilers saying that they were really unhappy with the return. It's not the interest.
Probably started with draft picks, right? And they don't want to move draft picks, so you got to work it around to get to a warm body, I guess.
Maybe they can trade him to Columbus for Line A because they played together or whatever. Just simple swap.
Could be a simple swap. We'll see what happens on that front. So that's everything that's going on with the Edmonton Oilers. Let's tie this one into the Oilers a little bit as well, because the Chicago Blackhawks are completely tearing their team apart. I just find it's very dangerous to tank in a league that has a lottery where even if you finish dead last, you only have a 25% chance of winning the lottery. Like it's crazy to me that you do what they're doing right now. I almost feel like they're trying. Remember when Costanza did everything he could to get fired and they wouldn't fire him? I feel like the Hawks are doing everything they can to get Pat Kane to be like, okay, trade me. And he's just like riding out. He's climbing in to the arena through the ventilation system and stuff because he's not ready to go just yet. But so Dylan Strome, this is a guy who's 25, put up decent numbers last year. They're not even going to qualify him. They're not qualifying Kubalik. They've, I think Connolly's been let go. This is a team that went out and got Jones, and they're like, oh, they're locked and loaded. Instead, they've traded to Brinkad. They've traded Kirby Doc. And we'll get to the Strome Oilers conversation in just a second. But Cass, what are you thinking as you see Chicago completely tear their franchise apart?
I don't even know. I don't even know. DeBrincat, I understand. If you want to, somehow find a way to move Patrick Kane, I understand. The Kirby Doc one to me is bizarre because if you're going through a rebuild, he's a young guy. It's not like he's an old player. It's not like he's 30 and declining. Like he's still developing, still turning into the player he's going to be, and you moved on from him. Now, behind the scenes, did he ask for a trade? Maybe. I don't know. Was he unhappy there? Maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah, I can't believe they're blowing it up this much. Like it's dramatic. And then not QOing some of your young guys who are still restricted free agents that are still property of the organization.
That's an asset that you're literally just giving away.
Even if you just sign them to a QO or you go through whatever and then you trade them for something, to me, it's like you're just letting them go for nothing. And that's what's just bizarre about the situation. I get that you want to go through a rebuild. I get that. That's fine. But the way they're going about it to me is just confusing. Like I don't understand what they're doing, guys. I don't get it.
If the Hawks were in my hockey pool, we'd fire them. It's that simple. Like you can't dismantle your team as obvious and clearly as they are, but just giving away assets. Gager, does any of this make sense to you?
Well, no, I would love, I'm too short-sighted to see the long, like I've been trying to see what's the long-term gain.
Well, the long-term gain is to try to get Bedard. I mean, that's all I can think of.
Yeah, but
it's still
like,
not 100%. Like,
what type of atmosphere are you building around your team? That's a dangerous thing to do. Like, especially when you have two Hall of Famers still on your team. Like, that's it. I mean, maybe they're looking to offload those guys, but they have no trade or limited movements in their contracts to the teams that they want to go to. And maybe they're going to, I mean, everyone talks about next year's draft and saying it's going to be stacked, but man, I wonder if they knew, if they really thought if Duncan Keith was going to retire or not. Maybe they thought he was, because they get rid of DeBrincat, right? But then that cap money just comes right back on when Duncan Keith decides to retire. So, and Kirby Doc, he's 20.
He's 21.
He's 21 years old. That's
DeBrincat's 24. He's scored 40 goals twice.
Those are two guys that if you ask any, like a lot of other GMs, they would be more than happy to start their rebuild with those two cornerstones in their team. So yeah, that's tough. That doesn't. I feel for guys like Kane and Taze for next year, just like playing out two great careers that I've loved watching and just fading into obscurity with Chicago, because that's going to be an awful.
I think I saw somebody today say Colorado had reached out about them before and might circle back around, which I don't even know how
could they make that fit?
work.
I don't know how you make that work.
I mean, bunch of retention, bunch of picks going the other way. I don't know. Maybe I just love hearing. That's like an NBA style thing, right? Where like the defending champs are like, "Oh, Pat Kane's available? Come on over here, join me on a mid-level exemption or something like that." It doesn't make a lot of sense. So we'll see what the next pieces are to fall. But I would be shocked if Pat Kane is the Chicago Blackhawk, even if we get to the deadline next year and he's
because this. Well, yeah, then the cap will be lower at that point, right? But yeah, this is their last year of their big deals too, right? So who knows how much more Taze is going to play, but I think Kane still has a few good years left for sure.
All right, let's talk about Calgary for a second. I see Sean slides into the live chat and says Kevin Weeks is talking about Evander Kane maybe signing in Calgary, where they've got Tkachuk as an RFA and Johnny Gaudreau as a UFA. 19 minutes ago, Kevin Weeks, I just wanted to double check this. Keep an eye on, I'm told the Oilers to offer Evander Kane roughly $4.75 million by 3 years. So that's a little bit different than Peel saying 4x4. The 4.75 by 3 is more in line with what we heard earlier on the Oilers willing to only go 3 years on him. And then he goes, Kevin Weeks says, if Kane doesn't re-sign with the Oil, does he go down Highway 2 and sign with the Flames or DC to the Capitals? Who knows? I mean, there will be some options. I just don't know if anybody's going to be giving him the big money, but let's just stick with the Flames for a second. What do you guys make of Calgary as they were deemed by many a contender this year, and obviously didn't go well in the Battle of Alberta, but if they come back next year with Tkachuk and without Johnny Gaudreau, and I don't know who else they add, but what's this team look like without Johnny Gaudreau and keeping Matthew Tkachuk? Cass, how good do you think they could be next year?
Well, I think they're worse without Gaudreau. A 100-point player is pretty hard to replicate, and just to slot in, like that's a lot of offense you're losing. They're still going to play a Sutter style of hockey, still going to be hard to play against. I don't think they're going to be any better than they are this year. I don't see how they get better through this free agency. They could get more expensive with some guys, but I don't know, fellas. Calgary's always been a little bit of an enigma to me. Like, especially on this podcast, they've messed me up so many times because they do the exact opposite of whatever I think they're going to do. But I think if they are able, they're going to bring in somebody to replace Gaudreau in that cap space. I don't know if they actually get Johnny or if it's somebody else. If he's not back, they're a worse team. I don't think anyone they're bringing in is going to make them better than they are with him.
Gage, I'd be pretty surprised if Gaudreau doesn't at least get a look at free agency, right? Like if
they already offered him. They already offered him the moon, didn't they? They offered him like $8 million or something, like $9.5 or right after the season. Or so, I think, he wants to. That's a tough one because Gaudreau, like you said, Cass, 100-point player or whatever, right? But I think he complimented Tkachuk and Lindholm just as much as they complimented him as well. I think that was a great line. Just the mix and match of physicality and nastiness and skill on that line. So not only if you lose him, do you have to kind of find that playmaking, puck possession type of player, but that's 100 points out of your lineup. And Cass, I remember back probably a year ago you saying when they were talking about losing Gaudreau after a bad playoff run was how are they going to, I think he was an 80-point player at that time, but he said, how are they going to replace those 80 points to get to the playoffs in the regular season? By losing him makes it very, very difficult to make the playoffs because there's 100 points that you're looking to replace, or 115, whatever it was.
I don't think Johnny Gaudreau's putting up those numbers ever again. Just like I don't think JT Miller's hitting 99 points again, right? Like I just think there's a ton of offense in the league. Maybe the league continues to trend that way, but I think, for Johnny Gaudreau, the numbers that he put up came at just the right time. So it'll be interesting to see. I can't imagine if Kane actually ends up and Calgary's rolling Kane and Tkachuk into a battle of Alberta. Let's wrap up with this on the Oilers quickly. Kind of tied back into the Hawks. I wanted to get to it earlier, but we dove into that Chicago conversation. Dylan Strome, who played junior with Connor McDavid, was very good friends. I'm assuming they're still good friends with Connor McDavid. Will be a UFA. Obviously, things didn't end well for his brother here because they made one of the worst trades ever and gave him up for 13 games of Ryan Spooner, which made no sense at the time and still doesn't to this day. I tweeted yesterday, I said, it's kind of on a platter here. Like, that's one of those ones where you're like, Strome, you're trying to prove you got it. You're buddies with Connor McDavid. But I saw a few Hawks fans slide in and say, he's soft. He can only play center. He's no good on the wing. He can only play top six. He's not one of these guys that you could put on your third line and he can play that style of game. So maybe it's not a fit. But if Connor McDavid goes to Ken Hall and goes, hey, I'm really good buddies with Strome, wouldn't mind you bringing him in. I mean, do you make that work? Or Cass, where do you come out on the addition of one of McDavid's buddies?
I mean, I hope you're not doing it because of that. If you think he's going to be a fit for your team, it's going to make you better, then sure, take a look at it. But I hope you're not looking at it just because you're friends with him. And I understand it's important, and he's probably going to fit into the room, and McDavid's going to be happy, and I get that. But you got to make a hockey first decision here. This has to be a hockey decision. Again, if you look at him and you say he's going to be a fit, he's what we need in this group, then fine, take a look at it. But to me, I don't know. I think you say thanks, but no thanks. Like if Connor brings that up, however gently and nicely you have to.
What about you, buddy?
We were just so spoiled with Evander Kane that it's the physical that was the piece that was missing on Connor's line, that physicality with skill and aggressiveness. And I mean, I don't like it, to tell you the truth. I don't think that's you're just going up against skill that doesn't work. We saw what Kane did in the playoffs, just being more physical, and I don't think Strome has that in his game. I think you need speed, skill, size with some finish. The only guy that kind of, I have to look more in depth, but the Josh Anderson one is the only one. But then I get a little bit worried about just the him staying healthy. That's another thing. Kane was healthy the whole time too, which was even worse.
It went as good as it possibly could have with Kane.
Yeah.
Like it just did. I mean, that's why they're willing to look at him for 3 years and maybe in the 5. Maybe they get up to 5 and 3, but all accounts that's still not going to be enough to keep Evander Kane with the Oilers.
You don't want to see Evander Kane rolling into town with Calgary with Johnny Gaudreau and Tkachuk. All right, that's not a good line. That's not a good line to play against.
Yeah. All right. Well, free agency gets rolling here in just a couple of days. We'll have an episode the next day breaking everything down, so it should be highly entertaining. We'll see where the Edmonton Oilers end up at this point. We would think Campbell between the pipes, probably get Kulak back on the blue line, and then see if they add 1 or 2 forwards up front as well. As always, Two Guys Goalie is brought to you by CoolBet. Stay cool and bet responsibly, but you can bet on free agency. The Oilers are the favorite right now to land Jack Campbell. I think they're third in the odds to get their hands on Claude Giroux. So if you want to go bet on that, you can do that as well. I think it's plus 450 or something along those lines. And put in a request for Jesse Puljujarvi destinations as well. And City of Edmonton will bet $1.5 million on where he ends up, which will be pretty interesting, I think, when it's all said and done. Boys, enjoy the next couple of days, and we'll have a whole new roster to discuss on Thursday. Should be pretty fun.
Awesome.
Sounds good.